Hi everyone, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com. I have been missing you. School is keeping me really busy. I don't even think I had time for a single post on Instagram this week. I am happy to present to you today my finished lifestyle tote. We are going to craft the sides today, and we are going to craft this awesome interior, and then I'm going to show you how you put all those pieces together to make this fabulous bag, which is absolutely perfect for creative projects or makers. And I'll just go over some of the features really quick with you in case you're just joining us. There's a full length padded exterior pocket, two short padded handles that make this bag perfect for carrying right in the crook of your arm, as it is likely to be heavy. Then we have two deep side pockets. We have these little handle tabs at the sides there that allow you to reposition the bag when it is on your work surface. Inside, we have a full-length zipper pocket. You can fit a MacBook Pro inside of that pocket. Then on the front of that, we have two slip pockets. On the opposite side, we have a full-length clear vinyl pocket. And behind that, another full-length fabric pocket, which is perfect for larger sketchbooks. And then the sides, as you can see, will fold down so you can access the interior of this bag with ease. It will hold a lot. I think it's absolutely perfect for your classes and art in the park. It's great for anybody who has a lot of materials or supplies associated with their project, and they want to keep it all contained in one pretty bag. Plus, it's a lot of fun to sew as it comes together in a completely different way than any of my other bags. So if this looks like something that's of interest to you, go ahead and hang around and I'll show you how to put it all together. Today is the third video. We are assembling the interior and finishing the bag. And next week is the fourth video, and that's when I'm going to price out the whole project for you so you know exactly how much it cost me to make this bag and how much I would sell it for if it was for sale. So if that sounds good to you, please take a moment, hit like on the video, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll get started right away. Okay, so I'd like to begin today with crafting those exterior side panels and side pockets. I have one of those pre-made for you here. So I'm using the quilt weight cotton on the exterior to actually form the pocket, and I did not interface that. And then I have the linen canvas as the actual side panel, and I did include a piece of Annie's Soft and Stable, so that gives the side panel some stability, as well as adding a little bit of padding to that side panel. So this I am very happy with. I did make one variation from the PDF in that I attach that little tab to the side panel as opposed to the pocket. It functions just the same regardless of where you attach it, but it is a little bit more practical to be attached to the side panel. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. So again, all the pattern measurements are in the PDF, and I will screen share that if you prefer to work right from this video, you can purchase the PDF in my Etsy pattern shop, and I'll leave a link to that down in the notes. So we're going to begin by folding over the top and the bottom edges of the pocket a little less than an inch, and we're going to fold that in half, wrong sides facing, and stagger that top lip just a bit. Then I'm going to run 2 rows of stitching across that to finish this pocket. That's what the pocket looks like. So it's just a standard Sewspire pocket at this point. I am aware that the flowers are upside down. You won't see that side of the fabric, so I did not fuss with that. Okay, then you're going to have your exterior side panel, which you're also going to press over the top and the bottom edges, but that's just really as a marker. We will sew it together with that edge up, but this is just going to help you when it's time to turn that. So go ahead and prep the panel like that by pressing in those top and bottom edges. Then you're going to right sides facing up, position your pocket panel about 1/2 inch from that base center line there. So determine center of that panel, and that's what's going to be left here on the bottom of this finished pocket panel. So you see with that top edge folded over, there's not much extra on that pocket. So then go ahead and run a row of stitching across the bottom of the pocket to secure it to this panel. And now that the pocket's attached, you're going to unfold that top edge, and same for the bottom edge, unfold that and bring the right sides facing. So you have the back of the panel, the pocket, and the front of the panel, creating a little sandwich here. You're going to use 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and stitch down the long edges, or the right and the left hand sides of this. So now I've stitched the right and the left hand sides. Now I want to reach inside of there and turn this right side out. Poke out the corners really well and give this a good press. Okay, so I've pressed my pocket and I've used those guides at the top to turn that top edge inward and press. Now I just want to fashion my little tab that goes at the top. If you did not catch the purpose of this tab, this is where you will place your fingers to readjust the bag when it's sitting on a surface. They are very handy, and I do not recommend that you omit those. It is entirely up to you though if you wanted to stitch them in between the top edge of your pocket or the exterior panel, as I'm going to do now. So this little tab is crafted in my standard Sewspire strap making method, which results in a 4-ply strap. You're going to press that long ways. Open that up and bring the outer edges inward to meet on the center press line, and then fold that over. Go ahead and top stitch down the open end and the opposite end to finish. Okay, and then I have a slightly smaller piece of the Annie's foam cut, and what I want to do is just tuck that right inside my little pocket envelope, and it is only like a 1/4 inch smaller than this actual pocket. And I am slipping that in between the side panel layers where it's open at the top there. And so I find if you get the base of that down in the bottom, then you can hold on to that and pull up the top there and just smooth everything out, and go ahead and tuck that foam up under that rear lip so it stays put, and then you will be able to capture that foam in the top stitching that we're going to run across the top of this side panel. Then this little tab gets turned to form a U, and you can insert that right at center in between those layers at the top of that pocket. Tab needs to have about a 2-inch drop on it, so you have enough room to position your fingers in there to reposition the bag. Just make sure that those are the same length. If this is your first one, then that will be your template for the second one. Then go ahead and run a row of stitching all the way across the top there. You may need to tuck back the pocket a little. Go ahead and reinforce with a back stitch at the tab. Okay, so now I have 2 side panels that are padded with the Annie's Soft and Stable, and have 2 pretty pockets on the front of those with 2 little repositionable tabs at the top of the side panels. So I'm going to set these aside, and we are going to begin crafting the interior, which comes together just like the exterior did. So first we're going to prep the pockets. So in the PDF, I give you instructions for the little tiny vinyl pockets. I want to have 1 larger vinyl pocket. So what I am doing is using pieces of material to frame out the top edge of that pocket so that I can sew it with a regular foot. If you are using a regular foot directly on the vinyl, it will stick and skip stitches. So by attaching a little fabric to the top edge where I'll put the stitches, I'm going to avoid that problem. So I did the same thing, just pressed this in half long ways, brought those outer edges inward on the center line, and pressed it over again. And I am going to tuck that vinyl in between those layers and let it sit right on that center line. And I'm just going to run a row of stitching across this so that my vinyl pocket is completely framed out. this is my interior panel, and it is a very long piece of material that I pieced together to get that accent there in the center. It will not come in full view on the camera here, so you are going to have to just have that awareness that this is one long panel that I'm going to use to attach pockets to the right hand side and the left hand side. So make sure the tops of your pockets are at the short end of that interior panel. So we want to get an idea of where center is on this. So go ahead and just press that in with your fingers. You can press at the iron or put a marker in there to keep that identified. So I want to come down about 5 inches from the top with my vinyl pocket here, and I want to put the pretty side up. And so for me, that happens to work out where it sits right on that accent panel, which is great. So I'm going to run another row of stitching across the bottom of that vinyl pocket to attach that to this interior panel. I do not have any interfacing on my interior panel. If you must use interfacing, or it is your preference, make sure you choose something very lightweight for this. So I'm just going to run a row of stitching right across there to attach my vinyl pocket. All right, so my vinyl pocket is attached across the base. I am leaving this undivided. So my pocket on my right hand side. Now I'm going to turn this around, and working on the other side, I am going to attach a fabric pocket, which was a larger square of material that I folded in half, wrong sides facing, pressed over those top edges and staggered just a little bit. So it's exactly how we made those exterior pockets. And I am going to position this pocket approximately 5 inches down from the top edge as well. And you have some freedom with the pocket placement on your panels. Just don't exceed 3 inches up from center, okay? So if you want to make your pocket bigger, you have that freedom. Just know from center, 3 inches up becomes the base of the bag. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stitch this pocket across the base there. And then I think I will divide this pocket right down the center, so I have a two-way fabric pocket. Okay, so at one end of my large interior panel, I have a two-way divided fabric pocket. And then at the opposite end, I have a larger vinyl pocket that is trimmed with the fabric to make it easy to sew. I have center marked with a pin as well as with a finger press there. So that'll be useful to me here in a few minutes. Now I want to bring over my interior lining, which is also an uninterfaced large piece of cotton fabric. And I'm going to position that right sides facing right on top of this pocket panel that I just made. And I am going to stitch all the way down the long edges. I am not stitching the short edges. And for this, I am going to use 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so I stitched the long edges of that. I trimmed those up, and then I turned that panel right side out and carefully press the portions that I can press. I want to point out that you're going to need to trim a lot of where that vinyl exceeds the seam, because otherwise that vinyl is going to create a lot of resistance for you in the seam. And so I'm going to go ahead and get that to start taking some memory there by folding it over and clipping it. So when you turn your interior panel right side out, you're going to take those short ends, which are open, and you're going to press those inward at least an inch. You have some freedom there, so just make sure that it's nice and straight. And if you need, you can take more or less. Okay, now what I want to do is tuck my zipper in between the opening. So I'm going to have to trim up this zipper here. You can use zipper by the yard as well if you want. And so I'm going to go ahead and trim mine up. Make sure your zipper pull is in the center there. And then I'm going to tuck that zipper tape down in there. I'm going to go ahead and pin this zipper in place. And so I have the zipper stop on the right hand side here, so I don't have to worry about that. But I am going to need to add a little zipper stop on the opposite side, or I'm going to end up losing my zipper pull the first time I unzip this. So before I add that zipper stop on the side I cut, I want to bring over another longer piece of zipper trim, and I am going to prep that just like I would a strap. The edges on this are raw, and I am just going to center my zipper tape on that, and I am going to bring in those outer edges and fold that over so that that ends up being a nice finished edge. So I'm going to get a pin in that to hold that, and then I will work at the opposite edge. Okay, so the top of my zipper tape is encased with this fabric trim. The bottom of my zipper tape is encased with this interior panel. Now I just need to arrange for a piece of material to connect the two of those on this right hand side. And then you're probably going to have to trim a little bit off of the top of that. You just need enough that you can tuck it up in between that fabric. And the whole purpose of this little piece of material is just to ensure that you don't zip your zipper pull right off the end. It just acts as a zipper stopper. You could use a piece of vinyl or cork or faux leather and achieve the same thing. I just want all my fabric to coordinate there, so I'll show you how that works. If you have a zipper that has the zipper stops intact, you don't have to worry about this step. Okay, so now I have my interior panel nice and prepped. I'm going to stitch across the bottom of that and the top of that very close to the zipper teeth to secure all of these layers. And this might be a good time for you to put on your zipper foot so you can get nice and close. Okay, so I have my zipper attached to that opposite side of the interior, and I am confident that I will not zip off that zipper pull. That's the main objective there with framing this out. So if you happen to have hardware or a non-frame material, that process is a lot easier than crafting a fabric tab like I did. But in my case, everything does match nice, and so I think it was worth that little bit of extra effort there. And so I'm just going to give this a good press and bring over my exterior panel. Okay, so last week we crafted the exterior, which again is one very long panel that does not fit fully in the camera view. So it's easier if I fold that in half for you to see. So one side of that has a full length pocket, which has a little bit of the Annie's. Inside of it, I have my straps attached to that side. And then on the opposite side, no pocket, and I have a little bit of trim, and my straps are attached inside of there. I have verified the handles are both the same length, and I know approximately where center is on this panel because I have pressed in a little center line there. So I want to turn this with the actual exterior face down. Okay, so your interior panel should be shorter than the exterior panel. You have some freedoms to make adjustments here on the right hand side. If you have not yet stitched that side closed, you might want to go ahead and wait until you get this fit so that you don't have to correct. We're now going to stitch all the way down the sides, the long sides of that lining to attach it to the exterior. We do not want to stitch these short sides. So on this side, this is going to be a long slip pocket. And then on this side here, we are going to have to stitch across the top of the zipper because we'll access that pocket through the zipper. So first stitch down the long edges, then stitch across the top of your zipper. Then you're going to need to stitch across the center of this panel so that your pockets aren't endless pockets. You may also want to bump up 3 inches from center and run 2 more rows of stitching so that the contents of the pocket actually stop at the edge of the bag. So I'm going to go ahead and get all that stitching in place, and then I'll show you what this looks like. So now I have a very long, finely finished panel that has my interior on one side and my exterior on the opposite side. I attach that interior by stitching first all the way down the long edges and then just across the short edge with the zipper. During that process, I had to be mindful of how that stitching was going to appear on the exterior. And so I tried to keep that same seam allowance so it's a nice like 1 inch chunky seam allowance on the exterior. So I aligned the edge of my foot up with the edge of the interior panel and then kept an eye on where that was sitting with the exterior panel. That does take a little bit of practice and it is difficult to perfect. So what I would like to suggest is if your stitching bothers you or it's uneven, come back in and add additional rows of stitching and maybe even wave those and just create a design element with the stitching. All right. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the look of this exterior stitching, but I have made, I think this is my 4th lifestyle tote. So I knew to anticipate this dilemma that I would have if that top stitching is not straight. And I'm a-okay with adding wavy lines to this too. The more stitching, the better, I think. This is very much a creative, artistic tote, but in this case, it did work out good for me, so I'm not going to add all the additional stitching. So I just wanted to mention to you on the opposite side there where I have my vinyl pocket, this is a full length pocket. You have the option of adding a snap here if you'd like. I am not going to add a snap. I will be using this as an art tote, and that will hold a sketchbook. So I want to leave myself the freedom to have a larger book in there if I want that exceeds that pocket capacity. So again, just to reiterate, 2 long stitches down each side attaches this interior panel, and then you close off the side with a zipper because you have the zipper, and that's how you can access that. And I did pay close attention to the seam allowance there so that that stitching looked fairly nice. And then I'm leaving this end open so I can access the pocket. The only other thing I did was run a row of stitching right down the center there, and that's just so the content of those interior pockets doesn't slip all the way through to the other side. As mentioned, you can add 2 more rows here if you'd like to ensure that the contents don't end up in the base of the bag. I'm not putting small contents in these pockets. There'll be large sketchbooks that'll add stability to the bag as well. So I don't have to worry about that. So I'm not going to take the risk of making more stitches and they perhaps don't line up nicely or aren't straight. So I like this 1 row right in the center there, and it'll serve my purposes well. Okay, so we want to turn the project so that the interior is facing up. We want to bring back over our pretty side panels, and we want to position those right at center. So make sure you know where center is on your side panel and where center is on your bag panel. And I have the stitch line, so that makes that very helpful. And I'm just aligning that finished edge of that side panel / pocket with the finished edge of my bag. The tab is towards the center, and the right side is facing up, the side with the pocket on it. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, now I want to put this up on the machine, and I want to stitch just where that little panel edge is visible, where that purple is for me. I want to stitch from end to end there. I'm going to back stitch at each end, and I'm going to just attach the base of this pocket to this panel. And so this is like 3/8 of an inch seam allowance for me. I'm putting the right hand side of the foot right against the fabric. And when those open up, that's what they look like. And so now I need to raise up each side and align that panel with the side. And so the easiest way to do that is just one side at a time. And I'm going to use a lot of clips because I want to keep this nice and straight. And so now you can really see why it was important to keep that vinyl out of that seam, to minimize the interfacing at those seams, because all of our finished edges are coming together now. So that's what that looks like when it's well clipped. And I'm going to work one side at a time. So by that I mean I want to get the sides attached to the rear of this bag first. It doesn't matter if you're working on the front or not. It's just, I don't want you to attach the opposite side of the bag until one side is fully attached. Okay, so here's what I have now. I have the stage that you are familiar with the T method. So my vinyl pocket is here, and this is the rear of my bag. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's the front or the rear, but it's the side that does not have a pocket. I have my vinyl side here, and I have the side panels raised up and attached with clips. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this up on the machine and stitch this in place, and I'm going to have to use a very narrow seam allowance, 3/8 of an inch there. I'm just aligning the edge of the foot right with the edge of that fabric, and the reason for that is I want to stay out of all of that bulk. I want to ensure that I can just attach these layers and not hit any of that bulk from the interior. Okay, so now I have my first sides attached, and now I want to raise up the remaining side there. I want to clip everything really nice and get that straight as can be. And then all I have to do is join those sides to that opposite panel, which has the pocket on it. And again, just using that very narrow 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm only stitching through the pockets and the side panels and that exterior panel. I am avoiding the interior, and that's why the interior is smaller, and that's why we paid close attention to the interfacing and those seam allowances. So hopefully you are watching this video before you start sewing, and you can take care when you are selecting your interfacing and you are stitching those sides. So before you stitch everything in place, clip well and have a look. Make sure that everything's nice and straight and sitting even. And then you can go ahead and stitch those sides in place. Woo! All right, I made it up that remaining side, and I have a really beautiful bag. I just had just a little bit of resistance at the top there where we have a little extra bulk where it met this trim piece on the front, but I was able to successfully hand crank through that, and I did sew this all on the Janome Skyline S3, which I want to remind you, if you subscribe to the channel and we reach my milestone of 106,000 subscribers by the end of 2022, I'm going to host a live giveaway for this very machine, which is brand new and is a champ. Made this gorgeous bag for me. I want to give you some measurements on this finished piece here. So across the base, we are 13 inches. Height is 13 and a half. And then right across the top there is about 13 and a half too. So it's probably, it is 13 and a half at the base as well. And then depth is 6 inches. And these little side panels here are 9 inches on the sides. And then to review the features with you, we have the full length exterior pocket, which will hold sketchbooks and larger items. I could put my computer in there. Then on the sides, we have the 2 deeper pockets, which are great for water bottles and taller items. You could put your cell phone in there as well if you wanted to keep that handy. We have the double padded handles, which are short enough you can carry this in the crook of your arm. And if you are not wearing a coat, you may even be able to carry it on your shoulder. I would rarely carry this bag on my shoulder because it's going to be too heavy. So I would most likely be carrying it in hand or in the crook of my elbow. And then on the inside, we have a full length pocket against that rear wall, which will also hold a sketchbook. And with the sketchbook in there, it's going to offer this a lot of stability, and this side panel is going to stand up nice and straight. It already stands up pretty straight on its own because of the foam and the vinyl on the interior. But you can see if you didn't have the vinyl there, this bag would fold open like that so you can access the contents. So there are 2 pockets on that side, the full length slip and then the full length vinyl, which you can see that would be so great for things that you actually want to be able to see, right? Like a bank of markers across there would be awesome. Then on the opposite side on the interior, I have a full length zipper pocket. I can also fit my computer inside of here, and then it will sit right against that padding. So that's a wonderful option for anything that you want to keep secure. Then I have 2 slip pockets here that are great for like watercolor palettes. So it's a really wonderful bag for someone who is creative. So I hope that I have emphasized to you the importance of choosing the right interfacing, especially if you don't have a heavy duty machine, because I want you to be able to clear these sides and finish your bag with ease. Next week, we're going to meet and we're going to price this project out. I'm going to tell you exactly how much it cost me to make this pretty bag. And then I'm going to tell you how much I would sell it for. So this is a new feature that I added to the videos for 2022. I think it's really important to value our work, and I'm hoping to bring some awareness to the quality and cost of handmade goods. So if you are curious about how much it costs to make this bag, please join me next Friday at noon Eastern, and we will price out the whole project. Until then, as always, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. I hope you have a beautiful week. Thank you so much for sewing with me.